sector over the area equals x, which is the central angle. It's just x over 360. And you remember that the area here, in case we need it, the formula for the area is pi r squared right here. So let's use that in this one here. I've got a radius of 127 centimeters. I've got a central angle of 36, and I'm being asked to find the sector area. Right? If it helps, I can think of how big this whole circle would be. This isn't going to work pretty well, but just picture, all right, it's like there's a big circle kind of like that, and this is just a little chunk of it, right? So I can start off by let me write out my formula here. Sector over area equals x over 360. And then I plug in the parts that I know. I have x here is 36 degrees, so I can already erase that and say here I'm going to put 36 degrees. And for area here, I don't have the area of the circle, but I do have the radius. And I remember that to get the area, I just use pi times the radius squared. So let's calculate the area. If I have a radius of 36, then area is going to be equal to pi times 36 squared. And let me do this over here. Area equals pi times 36 squared. This is just a calculation. I do 36 squared, I get a gigantic number, and I multiply that by pi. And that gives me the area of that total circle that I drew before, 4,071.50. So just going to write 4,071.5 centimeters squared. And now in order to find the sector area, I plug in the numbers that I know. I already figured out that 36 up here is the central angle. And now that I figured out that the area is 4,071.5, that means in here, I can put in the area that I just found, 4,071.5 centimeters squared. Okay, now that these are in the spots they need to be in, I can do the fish method. If I'm trying to find sector, I go next door to 4,071.5. I multiply that by 36. I divide by 360, and I get the sector. Right? Again, in case you've forgotten why we call it the fish method, it's because it looks like this. If I'm trying to find sector, I start down here, I multiply across, I divide, and that gives me this number up here. Right? So I got my little fish like that. All right, let's do that with this. I got 4,071.5. I multiply that by 36. I divide it by 360. And I get my sector area, 407.15 centimeters squared. Right? I did. Let me write it out here again. Area. Get the colors right here. I did sector was equal to, I did 4,071.5. I multiplied that by 36, and then I divided it by 360. And that gave me my sector area, which ended up being 407.15 centimeters squared. Now, some of you will notice that there's something kind of more straightforward going on here. And this relates back to one of the previous word problems where we had to find circumference. Here, if I know that the central angle is 36 degrees, some of you might have noticed, well, 36 degrees is just 1/10 of 360. So if I am trying to find the sector area of 1/10 here, if this angle is 1/10 of 360, that means that this slice of the circle is 1/10 of the whole disk. So that means once I found the area of the whole circle, I could just divide it by 10. Notice I just moved the decimal place over by 1 here to get the area of the sector. Just divide the total area of the circle by 10 because this is just 1/10 of the circle, and that'll give me the sector area. All right, let's do one last one over here. I've got a big sector area, most of the circle here, and I'm trying to find how much that area is. So again, I got to figure out which formula I'm using here, and I'm using this one here. Sector over total area. Sector area, that means this thing here, over the total area of the circle, that would be the whole thing, is equal to the central angle, 270, divided by 360. Right? This is, if you remember back to Unit 2, this is just a proportion. It's an equality between two fractions. The sector divided by the total area is equal to the central angle divided by all the degrees you could have in a circle, which is 360. All right, so let's plug in what we know. The area, we don't know the area, but we know the radius, so we can find the area pretty quick, right? Let's write that other formula over here. Area is equal to pi times the radius squared. By now, I'm sure you guys know how to do this, so we'll just write it as 5.9 squared, right? If that's how I find the area, then let's sort that out. Area is equal to pi times 5.9 squared. Let's calculate that. 5.9 squared times pi gives me the area of the whole circle, 109.36 meters squared. Again, this is not an accurate representation of what 109 square meters would look like. I would not have enough paper in all the school to be able to draw that for you guys. But if I had the area of this whole circle, it would be 109.36 meters squared. But I don't want the area of the whole circle. I just want part of it. Some of you may have already concluded to yourself, well, 270 is actually, if I reduce 270 over 360, I get 3 over 4. So I just want 3/4 of that. If you notice that, great. That might help you check and see what the right answer is. But I'm going to use my formula here. Right? Sector over total area equals x over 360. Let's take the numbers that we know and put them in the spots we have for them. If I've got that area is 109.36, then I can write that sector over the area, which is 109.36, is equal to 270, which is the central angle, right? That's the x up here, 270, goes in that spot there, over 360. Okay, so again, all I'm doing from this step to this step is I'm switching out numbers for the spots I know they have to go into. X is my central angle, so I take 270, I put it in that spot. A is the area of my circle, which I just calculated over here, so I put that number in this spot here. And I set that up because now I can just cross multiply. I can say 360 times the sector is equal to 270 times 109.36. Or, as is often pretty quick in this unit, it's a little bit faster because you're always looking at these straightforward proportions. You just do the old fish method. This times this divided by this gives me that. All right, let me write that out. Sector, let's try that again. Sector is equal to 109.36 times 270 divided by 360. And that'll give me my sector area. So let's do the calculations. Again, my calculator remembers that it's not exactly 109.36. There's a lot more decimals than that. So it takes that number, which I've kept in my calculator, I multiply it by 270, I divide that by 360, and I get my sector area, 82.02 meters squared. The sector area is 82.02 meters squared. Want to do a little check here to make sure that this number makes sense. If the area of the whole circle is 109.36, then it makes sense that this is about 3/4 of that, right? 82 is about 3/4 of 109. So that's my answer here.